Peace and blessings, family. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Taye Speaks. We got a very, very special guest in the house, a legend, a West Coast legend, definitely a pioneer in this game called hip hop. We're going to get right into it. Thank you again for coming on the show, King. It's truly an honor. I truly appreciate you. For the viewers who may be tuning in and they may not know who you are, let them know who you are and definitely let them know where you're from.
For sure, man. I appreciate the invite, man. It's your boy, Big Prodigy from the South Central Cartel. For those that don't know,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
should know.
definitely. Some legends, yeah. All right. So, I guess my first question is, what was the music scene like in the 80s and the 90s, coming from South Central?
In the '80s, man, the early to mid '80s, it was the New York, the East Coast stuff, and then gradually, man, we started getting our own groups doing their thing from over here. The Dream Teams, the early on, Ice T even early on. Um, like a lot of underground artists and whatnot that was doing it, man. But I started really gravitating heavy toward it when the underground tapes started coming out. Toddy T and Mixmaster Spade and cats like that started making like the underground tapes talking about what was going on in the streets. You know what I mean? So I that's when I really before that I was heavy on the East Coast, the LL Cool J's and the Run Run DMCs and the Curtis Blows, the stuff that was coming from the East Coast, but I got heavy into the West Coast when I started hearing the stuff that I could really relate to, which was the stuff about what was going on in the streets. And then of course NWA came soon thereafter, toward the end, little mid to end of the '80s. NWA started, dropping that real gangster shit. So that's pretty much what it was though, up until people like Toddy T, started doing the street stuff. It was mostly like the East Coast influence stuff, the straight hardcore hip hop stuff.
Okay,
Now
okay. Now my next
you know what happened in the '90s. So
right,
you know
right.
you in the '90s everything changed.
Right, right, because I was gonna
I
say,
was floating
uh-huh.
around. I definitely was floating around in the '80s though. I was
Right.
out there making my moves, trying to get on. In the '80s,
Oh yeah,
and
most
these the
definitely.
people that I was listening to. You know what I mean? And I found myself around a lot of Ice T's, people back then when I was a youngin'. I'm trying to get on, man, but I never really latched on to no particular crew. You know what I mean? I always
Hmm.
did my own thing, and that's pretty much how it was when we got on, when the SEC got on. We wasn't really attached to no crew. It was our own crew. And in the '90s, it was full throttle with the street stuff.
Right, right. So I wanted to ask you my next question. I was kind of young back then, but it seemed like the first groups that really came up out of LA, like NWA, DJ Quick, MCA, they was representing for Compton. Was y'all the
Right.
first South Central Cartel? Was y'all like the first group to go major that really came out representing South Central, or was it somebody else?
To my knowledge, we was the first group that came specifically with the South
Right.
Central. Now
Mm-hmm.
you had Ice T, who was from a section of South Central, and there was other rappers that was from different sections out here, but nobody pushed that South Central until we came and propped that up.
Right, right. Oh yeah, Ice-T definitely, but I think he by way of, South
Yeah,
Central
well, we
Cartel
know
was
he
straight
from the
from.
East Coast for sure.
Yeah,
But
yeah, he
he
represented
was
well
he
though.
was, and he wasn't repping South Central like that.
Right.
You feel me? He was
Mm-hmm.
L.A. player and this L.A. this and L.A.
Mm-hmm.
that. We came with the South Central.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. To my knowledge, because I was a kid back then, but my older brother he put me on to y'all. That gang stories, man. That's one of my favorite rap songs. Period. In the top 10, top 20. I love that song when I was a
Appreciate that,
kid.
bro. Appreciate that for
Yeah,
sure.
that's hard. How did y'all come up with that name? That's a hard name. South Central
Man,
Cartel. How did
you
you get
know
that?
what? When we decided to start the group, because before the group, everybody was doing their little solo things or whatnot. But when I decided to put the group together, man, we was trying to come up with a name, and it used to be a member of the group, a dude named Lover G. He
Mm,
said South Central Cartel because we was going through. We had like 8, 9 names that we was possibly gonna use, but when he said the South Central Cartel, I was like, oh, that's it, bro. That's it. So the homie came up with that. We
okay,
ran with
man.
it.
Big shout out to him. Big shout out to the
Hell
homie,
yeah.
man. That's
You'll hear
a
him to this day. I
man.
came up with the name. I'm the one that named the group. Yeah,
Right,
he
right.
came up with it, man. I give him his props for that.
Right, SCC wasn't no joke. I was gonna ask you about this too. Now, y'all was out in the early '90s when I got hip to you, and me and my dude, we was like in elementary or junior high, or whatever. And he was talking about Mobb Deep, and he was like,
Right.
"It's a Havoc and a Prodigy." And I told him, I'm like, "No, it's a Havoc and Prodigy from the West Coast." I'm like, they've been out way before them, because I think Mobb Deep was like kids. They might have been like teenagers at that
Yeah,
time,
they were. And we
but he
was
didn't
already
believe.
out.
So I
I
just
don't
wanted to
know,
see.
man. That shit, that's gonna be the puzzle. Well, that's gonna be one of the weirdest things that's gonna ever be like in the hip hop, history. How the hell South Central Cartel and Mobb Deep end up with the exact same names, even though the spelling was different. I spelled
Hmm.
mine different than Mobb Deep Prodigy. He spelled his the
Yeah.
normal way, and I just took the dictionary's alternate spelling. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I used that
Yeah.
for no, just because I just was weird like that. You know what I mean? I didn't want it to
Mhm.
be because in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to have the same name if some other group or something come up, not rap group like one person, but some group or some product or brand or whatever use that name. I want to have something different. So I'm like, I'm gonna use this different spelling of it. But man, I don't know, bro. We can go through that. We didn't went through the years, bro. We went from the stage of being pissed off about it to the stage of just like, you know what, man, whatever. Like ain't they can't prove that we stole their names and we can't prove they stole our names. Ain't nobody got
Right.
no proof. You feel me? We could say all
Mhm.
day that we was around first, right? But how do we know how long they was youngins and how long they had the name?
Mhm.
Had
Oh, you on mute?
I
Oh,
have
there you
no
go.
idea how long they was. All I know is we didn't steal shit. You
Right.
feel me?
Right.
That's all I could
Yeah.
tell motherfuckers. We didn't steal nobody name. So you could
Mm.
take that and run with it.
Right. Right. I definitely appreciate you speaking on it, but I already knew what it was because he just didn't believe me. But that's something I always thought about, and I never really
Mhm.
heard you speak on it before.
Yeah, a lot of people
Maybe it was
wonder
just
how that happened, man. A lot of people be asking me the question, but I'm like, I don't know how it happened, bro. I have no
Mhm.
clue how the hell that happened. You know what I mean? People think we stole names. I mean, how we gonna steal something when we was here already?
Already.
You feel me? We had put out a South Central Cartel album and a Havoc and Prodigy album.
Mhm.
Because me and Havoc had several solo albums. So
Mhm.
we had, I think, already released the first Havoc and Prodigy album around the time Mobb Deep came out. Not to mention
Mm.
the very first South Central Cartel album, which was South Central Madness. See, you got on Gang Story, that's the second album.
Right.
We had already put out a whole album before that one that did pretty
Right.
damn
Right.
well. You feel me? So,
Mhm.
so it is what it is, though. Rest in peace to Prodigy.
Mhm. R.I.P. King.